Hello, and welcome to today's lecture on Chapter 10, which is Communicating to Land a Job. So let's face it, after your career at Georgia Highlands College and beyond, your next big step is going to be landing that big job. So today's lecture is going to be helping you prepare for that moment. So let's talk about networking, because networking is a very vital part of your job search. The first thing I want you to know is that everybody is a network prospect in your life. Everybody. That includes your friends, your family, your neighbors, your schoolmates, alumni that have gone to this school, professional people whose services you've hired to do work for you and your family. Absolutely anybody. If they have a heartbeat and a pulse, they are a networking prospect. So keep that in mind. I want you to consider networking both in person and online. Online, I highly recommend that you set up a LinkedIn profile, because you would be surprised at how many people that you know that have profiles on LinkedIn that can help you. Plus, if you find out the name of the person you're going to be interviewing with in advance, you could check out his or her LinkedIn profile and learn a lot about the person that you're going to be interviewing with. Also, you want to seek referrals from people. There is a theory of the 6 degrees of separation, which means everybody that you know is related to you or connected to you through 6 people. That's how small our very big world is. Also, you might want to consider conducting an informational interview, whether this is face-to-face, over the phone, or through video. This is very important to do because you can find out a lot of valuable information through an informational interview. This is where you're going to seek answers from sources whose knowledge could enhance your success in finding a job. The goals of an informational interview would be to conduct research to further understand a job, an organization, or a field. Also, to make a positive impression on the person that you're interviewing with. And lastly, to gain a referral from that person, because referrals are everything. Lastly, you want to show appreciation in your networking strategy. You want to write a thank you note. If your mama raised you right, you know the importance and the value of writing a handwritten thank you note. So next, we're going to discuss 5 ways to build a career-enhancing network, and you should start now. The first thing you could do is to take part in volunteering and service learning. I cannot say enough good things about volunteerism, whether it's with the Paulding County Animal Shelter or Big Brothers Big Sisters. Showing that you are a volunteer and that you give freely of your time is a very big asset to your resume. It's also vital that you attend lectures, forums, and networking events. You never know who you're going to meet at these events, and therefore it's a great way to build your network of people that can help you in your job search. You also want to keep up with local news, whether it be your newspaper or your TV news, 11 Alive, CBS News. You can learn so much about your community by reading the local newspaper and keeping up with news events. Also, you want to join career-related organizations. If you want to become an accountant, or if you want to become an engineer or an architect, there are organizations that will help you in this and that will connect you to people in the industry that you want to get into. And also, you want to utilize online resources to their fullest. You are so lucky and so blessed to be alive in the age of the internet. Back when I was your age and I was trying to network and I was trying to look for jobs, the internet didn't exist. So everything was through classified ads in newspapers, or you had to go to a staffing agency or a headhunter to help you find a job. Of course, word of mouth is huge. If you find out from your neighbor that UPS is hiring, that would be a great opportunity to get your foot in the door with having your neighbor work there. So next, I want to talk about managing your online identity, because in today's world, almost every job is done with an online application. So the first thing you want to do is take stock of your strengths and goals. It's important to write this down. What are you good at? What do you want to do with your life? Think about these things. These are tough questions, but they're important ones, and you need to invest some time in this. You also want to build a professional identity. This can be done through, again, setting up a LinkedIn profile and then putting as much information as you can out there so potential employers can check you out. Also, being online also includes your social media presence in terms of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. Are the things that you're posting on these sites appropriate? Would you be embarrassed if a potential employer saw something you posted? Remember, you need to think before you post. There are actually people that are out there in organizations that their specific job is to check out your social media profiles and make sure that you are a worthy candidate to work in their organization. So watch memes or unflattering photos of you drinking or partying or something that you would not want a future employer to see. You do want to monitor your online presence. So what does that mean? Google your name. See if anything is incorrect or unfair or unflattering about you out there. And if there is, try to repair this damaging information that was posted about you online. There are actually companies that can help you do that, such as reputationdefender.com. You also want to Google your name and make sure that you are not, beware of being mistaken for somebody else. If you have a common name, such as Michael Smith, there are a lot of Michael Smiths out there. So you want to make sure that you are not getting confused with someone else that might have your same name. So you also want to realize that the job search does not stop once you get hired. I'm not saying look for your next job while you're working, but you always want to be promoting yourself and your industry and connecting with other professionals out there. And that's why LinkedIn is such an outstanding site for networking and job searching. So let's go back to this job search. There are 5 steps and 5 things that you need to do while you are applying for a job. And the first and foremost is to create a resume. If you've not already done that, I highly encourage you to start now. Georgia Highlands College has a student support services department that is outstanding and that can actually help you with this. You also want to make sure that you tailor a cover letter to the exact position that you're looking for. Now, your cover letter should highlight your strengths and your accomplishments, and it should be tailored specifically to the company and the job that you are applying for. You want to edit this cover letter thoroughly, as well as your resume. Your resume should be a work in progress. You should always be updating your resume with every accomplishment that you do. And it's very important that you use spell and grammar check, because if you have any of these errors in your cover letter or your resume, you will not be looked upon positively by your future employer. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're going to file your resume and cover letter under G for garbage. So remember, how you present yourself on paper is the first step to getting that face-to-face or video interview for the job. So details matter. Also, you want to follow application instructions to the letter. A lot of job applications have a lot of different hoops that you need to jump through. Make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's and follow all instructions thoroughly. And also, lastly, you want to keep an organized record of your communications and maybe create a spreadsheet in Excel that shows all the positions that you're going for and what the action steps that you've accomplished with those applications. So you can have a reference on something to look at to see where you stand on your job search in each of these opportunities. Super important, because it's really hard to remember it all up here. I found that if I have something written down and I can reference it, it's a lot more powerful that way. So, good news. You've been asked in for an interview. Now what? Oh my goodness, you have so much preparation to do. Let me tell you, the first thing that you need to do is do the research on the company you're going to be interviewing with. It shows that you're knowledgeable, it shows that you're prepared, and it shows that you care. If you can state something in the interview that you know about that company, the interviewer is going to be very impressed. Trust me. So make sure you do your research on the company, find out what's going on with them so you can utilize this information in your interview. You also want to prepare for likely questions. Now, in our class, we're going to be having a mock interview with one of your classmates. So this will give you an excellent opportunity to practice and brush up on your interviewing skills. But there are likely questions that you are going to be asked in your job interview, such as, why do you want to work for us? What do you know about our company? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your strengths? And tell me about a difficult situation that you had at work with a customer and how did you resolve it? So remember, these questions are meant to be tough. They're meant to put you on your feet, and you're going to have to think on your feet. So what better way and what better time than to start now to prepare for that moment? So let's get started. Now, you do need to dress for success. You know how important dress is for me and for this class. You are what you look like, and you do not have a second chance to make that first impression. So you need to make sure that you are dressed for success. I always say, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And you'd be surprised how many amazing pieces in my wardrobe have come from thrift stores and Goodwill and secondhand shops, consignment shops. You can achieve that look of success for very little. You just have to put some effort and some time into it. Now, it's important on your interview that you bring copies of your resume and your portfolio if you have them. And you want to know exactly when and where to go. This is super important. Make sure that you Google the address, you do a dry run, you figure out how much time it's going to take for you to get there because you don't want to be late to your interview. So I highly recommend doing a dry run and a practice run to the location of your interview. You also want to reframe your anxiety as enthusiasm. Look, nobody loves a job interview. It is one of the most stressful communication contexts and situations that you will go throughout in your life. So the best advice I can give you is to breathe and practice and channel that anxiety into enthusiasm because it will show. It will show if you're nervous, but if you can channel that into something positive, then it can very well tip the scales in your favor. So remember we talked about difficult questions and the fact that they are coming your way in a job interview? Well, one of the most surefire questions that you're going to be asked are, what is your weakness? And honestly, I'm here to give you 4 ways to answer that question that are going to help you out of that sticky moment. Now, you can't say I don't have any weaknesses because let's face it, nobody's perfect, right? But what you need to do is you need to channel your weaknesses in a positive light so that they will be viewed as a strength. So for example, one way that I've done that is when I've been asked what a weakness is, I have said before that I have a problem saying no to people, that I want to help people and I want to do things for people. And when people ask me if I could help them, I automatically say yes. And what happens? I say yes too much, and then it gets me in trouble and I overextend myself, and then I cannot do all of my obligations effectively. So that is an example of channeling a weakness into a strength. Also, you might want to discuss a weakness that is unrelated to the job itself, but then answer it or end your answer with a strength that is related to the job. Also, you can discuss a weakness that the interviewer already knows about you from your resume, your application, or the interview. Or you can talk about a weakness that you have been working to remedy, that's something that's in progress. Because remember, we are all a work in progress. We are all trying to better ourselves. And there's no shame in having a weakness. So next we're going to talk about 7 ways to create a presentation about yourself. Now, the first step is to be audience-centered. Now, we talked about the importance of your audience and that in any speech or presentation, it's all about your audience. So ask who will be present at your interview, who you're going to be meeting, who you're going to be presenting to. You also want to consider technology needs if you need them. So if it's a face-to-face interview or a face-to-face presentation with no technology, that's fine. But say, are you going to have a projector? Are you going to have a computer? What type of computer will it be? Will you have a microphone? Or is this something that's going to be done remotely? In which case, maybe that you'll be using Zoom or using Skype. So again, you need to consider the technology. You also want to craft a well-organized presentation. So you want an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, much like you would in a speech. You want to have clear points and strong evidence presented. And of course, you want to end in a strong and memorable way. You also want to focus on relevant accomplishments. You might have a list of accomplishments a mile long, but you won't have time to talk about all of them. So try and focus on the most relevant ones to the job itself. Also, if you have any visual aids, as you know, KISS, keep it simple, speaker. So don't overwhelm them with a lot of fluff. Just keep your visuals and keep everything as simple as possible. Also, you want to keep it brief. You want to ask how much time you have because, as you know, you don't ever want to run over on your time. And then, above all, you must practice. Practice, practice, practice until you just can't practice anymore. There is never such thing as practicing too much. Now, I do want to tell you that in some interviews, you may be asked a question or questions that are against the law. And this happens, unfortunately, all the time. So I want to bring to your attention that it is illegal for potential employers to ask you questions about your race, your religion, your gender and sexual orientation, your disabilities, your national origin, or your age. They also are not allowed to ask you about marital status or if you have children. They are only allowed to ask you about topics that are related to the job itself. So please keep that in mind. Now, if you are asked an illegal question, you may choose to answer, in which case it might be a slippery slope and it might be rather uncomfortable. You might choose to redirect the topic, refuse to answer, or you could also withdraw from the interview. Because after all, if a potential employer is asking you an illegal question, what else may they be asking you to do in the future? Now, I'm almost done here, but I want to talk about it. When you participate in a job interview, there's certain things that you need to keep in mind. Number one, you need to mind your manners. You need to be on your best behavior. Your phone needs to be out of sight and on silent. You are being watched. And in fact, you might be being watched from the minute you walk in the building to the minute you leave. And you never know who you might be encountering or speaking with before you actually get to the interview. So remember, always mind your manners. You want to follow the interviewer's lead. They're asking the questions. They should give you an opportunity to ask questions yourself, but otherwise, just follow the interviewer's lead. You also want to keep your answers short and sweet. Remember, KISS. Keep it simple, speaker. You also want to describe relevant challenges, actions, and results, and especially ones that you can tie into the job position in which you're interviewing for. You always want to be prepared with a good question of your own. When the time comes when the interviewer asks you if you have any questions for them, if you say no, I can almost guarantee you're not going to get the job. And most importantly, you want to follow up after the interview with a personal handwritten thank you note. Nothing says class and manners than responding with a heartfelt handwritten thank you note. It will set you apart from the other candidates. Lastly, I just want to say that in this day and age, a lot of interviews are happening over the phone and via video. So there are certain things that you need to consider if this indeed will be your job interview situation. So you want to present a professional identity. You're going to get dressed the same way you would as if you were meeting these people in person. You also want to practice with your technology in advance. So say you're having a Zoom interview, then you want to practice speaking directly into the camera and smiling. And if it happens to be a phone interview, you need to remember that you can actually hear a smile over the phone. So you need to channel that positive energy and that enthusiasm and pretend as though this person were right in front of your face while you're speaking to them. You also want to make sure that the interview is scheduled in the right time, meaning you're not going to be rushed, you're not going to be stressed, you're going to allow plenty of time to get there if you're traveling, and that you take those things into consideration. You also want to ask how long the interview will last, because it's important to have that information beforehand. You also, again, want to look at the camera and not the screen. You want to look at where the person is seeing you and look directly into the camera. And then finally, you want to conduct a dress rehearsal. See if your friends or your family can help do a mock interview with you and help you practice and get ready for that moment. Now, today we've talked about the importance of communicating to land a job, and I know each and every one of you is going to be absolutely awesome in your interviews. All you have to do is dress up, do your research, be prepared, and put your best foot forward. And remember, you got this. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you at our next lecture.